Ever have that moment when it's like, oh, Hey everyone, it's Charity Ohlund back with this week's Future Proof. I am coming to you from the rooftop. We're indoors, but we are on the rooftop at Brush Creek Select, our preferred insurance partner. If you're looking for insurance for your clients, please consider them, and also feel free to reach out to them about using their rooftop for your next event. So today we are talking about that moment when you either realize that you've screwed something up for your client, or maybe you've done nothing wrong at all, but your client has a complaint, a problem, they're mad, you need to fix it. What are the 7 essential steps that you need to take to fix client complaints and problems? So let's get right into it. Step number 1, the first thing you need to do is learn to put your emotions aside. So whether this is something that is your fault, which comes with a rush of adrenaline, or you're blindsided by a client who has called you with a complaint or with some anger, or you've heard through the grapevine that someone's not happy with you, you're bound to get emotional. So before you do anything else, be sure to balance yourself, let that adrenaline come out of your system, calm yourself so that you can address the problem head on. Step number 2, really important one, is avoid challenging the complaint, even if you disagree with it, and especially avoid lying or covering yourself, CYA as we call it, with this complaint if it was something that you did wrong. What you first need to do is acknowledge that you hear it and that it is valid and that you are listening. Our third step is the most important one, and I think is the one that really impacts the way the rest of this is going to go when you do this correctly. The third step is thanking your client for bringing this complaint to you, or thanking your client for saying it to someone else and you learning about it. That really disarms people, lets them know that you're willing to hear this feedback, that you're not putting up a wall. So I always say something like, first of all, thank you so much for sharing with this with me, because I can't fix problems I don't know about. So I really appreciate your candor, and I appreciate the opportunity to solve this with you. Now that you've thanked your client for bringing this to your attention, you're ready for step 4. And this is the step where you really just ask a lot of questions. Where did this go wrong? How could you have improved that? What were they expecting? Again, you're not putting up a defense yet. You're really digging deeper. Think of yourself as a reporter. The who, what, why, when, and how is what you want to get to the bottom of for fixing this client's problem, and most importantly, to make sure that it doesn't happen again in the future of your business. All right, step number 5 is when you really get to start rebuilding this relationship. You've asked all of your questions, you thanked them for talking to you, and now it's time to go through your side, acknowledging again and not fighting of what happened on your end. If it was a miscommunication, explain how that happened. If you were late in getting back to someone, or you failed to reach out when they were expecting you, let them know why that happened. Give the why behind what happened. Now, again, you might disagree in that you've done nothing wrong, but there's got to be something, some middle ground that you can step towards your client and identify what caused them to feel like this, whether that be perception, but what you could have done better to make sure that this hadn't have happened in the first place. All right, 6. This seems like something that should be much further up in the process, and I'm sure early on you might have said, I'm sorry, but this is where you really get the chance to say, I am truly sorry. It's a heartfelt apology. It is a connection with that client, and you're going to deliver an apology verbally. You're going to repeat back to them what you heard them say when you asked those questions and when you listened to their complaint, and you're going to say, I'm sorry for that complaint in a true, heartfelt way, which leads us to our next step. Okay, final step number 7, twofold here. 1, I think if it's appropriate, find a way to send a simple gesture. Follow this conversation up with a handwritten card. Follow this conversation up with a little gift of some sort. Something I like to send is a pie. Have a pie delivered to this person with a card about humble pie, especially if it's something that was a mistake that was made in your arena. Make sure you make that apology from the last step, and then follow that up with a heartfelt token. And then finally, as you're talking with that client and making your apology, make sure you let them know ways that you're going to prevent this from happening in the future. Even if it might not affect them, if they're not going to work with you going forward, you want them to know that you've heard them and that you're going to make systematic changes either with your own process or with your team to make sure that other clients don't experience the same thing. If you follow these 7 steps, I promise you that any terrible situation can be turned around into a situation that is actually better than had no mistake ever happened. Think about that. A perfect transaction happens perfect every step of the way is not nearly as memorable as if something, hopefully not too big, went a little wrong, but you showed what kind of professional you are and the kind of empathy you have to solve that problem and to solve it really well. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Please reach out if we can be a partnership with you anytime, and I'll see you soon.